What's up, guys? It's Lord Both here for another video, and it's a day that ends in Y, so that means that Nintendo is in court.
Oh, come on!
Yes, more legal happenings with Nintendo, and surprisingly this time, it's actually somebody suing them. I know, it's weird. It's usually them that's bringing the samurai sword of Japanese law down on the head of some poor schmuck.
That escalated quickly.
Who dared to emulate one of their Mario games. But it turns out, some people in Brazil are not that happy that Nintendo is bricking consoles. Yes, hot off the heels of the news that Nintendo is going to raise prices on the original Nintendo Switch, not the Switch 2, the original Nintendo Switch, a console that's been out for years now, and Nintendo Switch Online subscriptions, at least in Canada, which is where it's going to start, is probably going to go to other places if they don't get any pushback from the Canadians, which, to be honest, they're not, because Nintendo is a massive gaming company and not some small rural Canadian farmer.
I will never apologize for standing up for an LGBTQ2+.
But yes, in the wake of those price increases, a company which, as you can see here, has its own website sued by Nintendo, in which you can look up all the active lawsuits Nintendo has against people.
I don't know how to put this, but I'm kind of a big deal.
Well, this company is now being taken to court for their own actions. This comes to us from Game Rant. Brazilian agency formally notifies Nintendo over a console bricking EULA clause. Nintendo's end-user license agreement tied to the Nintendo Switch 2 console has reportedly been deemed abusive by a Brazilian consumer protection agency over the company's ability to permanently disable the Switch 2 units of users who Nintendo has found to have violated the contract. The agency has reportedly put the company on official notice over its Nintendo Switch 2 policies, which it claims violate Brazilian consumer protection laws. While the popularity of the Nintendo Switch 2 is evident in Brazil, some of the provisions of its end-user license agreement have reportedly caught the attention of Procon SP, the Sao Paulo-based branch of Brazil's Consumer Protection and Defense Program. As pointed out by Technoblog, Nintendo maintaining the ability to terminate user accounts and to render its consoles permanently inoperable without giving a valid reason is a violation of the nation's Consumer Protection Section 8.078/90.
What the hell is even that?
Wow, I felt like a dork reading that. Probably should read it in my dork voice.
Which under its language seeks to meet consumer needs to respect their dignity, health, and safety, to protect their economic interests and improve their quality of life, and to ensure transparency and harmony in consumer relations.
Another supposed legal clash reportedly raised by Procon SP is the EULA's provision prohibiting consumers from filing lawsuits against Nintendo. So that was a whole lot, and as you probably could tell from my dork voice that I used, it was a lot of legalese. And what does it all mean? It means that Procon, which is this consumer protection agency out of Brazil, is suing Nintendo because they say that it is against the law, against Brazilian law, for Nintendo to not just terminate the accounts of users they think are being abusive, or for whatever reason Nintendo wants to delete their account, but also brick your console. Not only that, they are also suing Nintendo on the provision that in the end-user license agreement, Nintendo has a clause in there saying that you can't sue them as an individual who's bought a Switch 2 for doing this or any other reason related to the Switch 2.
This is exactly what I've been waiting for. This is exactly, I don't mean to sound like Cat Williams, but this is exactly.
So what does Nintendo say about this? Well, they say that they have maintained that the provisions in question, which were added about a month before the Switch 2's launch, were put in place as anti-piracy measures. Nintendo warned players it could brick their Switch or Switch 2 consoles if any unauthorized modding had been detected, and the nondescript language in the EULA was likely put in place as a catch-all that could avoid technical loopholes that potential pirates could use to sidestep any specific regulations.
Hold up. Wait a minute. Something ain't right.
Well, wait, isn't the opposite supposed to actually be true? You want your regulations to be very specific and numerous so pirates can't get around them? That's the whole point. Not have them be big and vague so pirates can just slip through. Because when you have regulations that are big and vague like this, you're going to get taken to court over them, like you are now. Because invariably, you're going to catch people in the net that weren't trying to do anything that wrong. The article also states that meanwhile, the license agreement language has caused other problems in the used console market, as customers have been warned against buying used Switch 2 consoles due to the possibility of Nintendo having already rendered them permanently inoperable, meaning that somebody gets their Switch 2 bricked, they go on eBay, post it to be sold, you buy it from them, you end up getting it back, you try to boot it up, and guess what?
Gotcha, bitch.
Your Switch has been bricked, and you didn't even know it. And because you bought it from a third party, it's not exactly like you can just send it back. I do have to say, it is fun seeing Nintendo being taken to court for once, instead of them taking other people to court for what I would say is legitimate reasons and concerns, for provisions they should not have included and things that they should not be doing right now. That said, I don't think anything is going to come of this. If this lawsuit does go through, Nintendo will keep this revolving around in the courts for as long as possible. Delay, and stall, until eventually there's no gas in the tank left for those pursuing them, and a settlement is probably reached. That said, if this thing does end up going to court and does go to trial or anything like that, Nintendo will probably, let's just say worst case scenario, Nintendo loses and loses big on this lawsuit. They're going to go into immediate damage control and localize it to the laws of Brazil, and this was a Brazil specific thing, because they do not want these kinds of legal battles that could take place in other countries too, because of the provisions they put in versus the laws of certain countries. And I will say, Brazil has a pretty stringent consumer protection, more so than other countries, I would say. But this thing could spread to other countries if Nintendo takes an L on it. So best believe if they did, they're going to try their damnedest to localize it to a very stringent reading of the law and the provisions within their EULA by the Brazilian Consumer Protection Agency. They don't want this thing spreading to other countries, more lawsuits, more money, etc. So does this look good and feel good? Yes. Does it mean that they're actually going to get their feet held to the fire in any particular way? I highly doubt it. All while they're taking other people to court suing them, and they're raising the price on old equipment and subscription services, fleecing their consumers for more and more money. But those are just my thoughts on all this. If you have your own thoughts, go and leave them in the comments. If you like this video, go and like, share, and subscribe. If you didn't like this video, appreciate you watching all of it, and we'll talk to you again later.